Hey guys, what is going on? I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. So recently I was scrolling around on YouTube just kind of watching some videos about the current gaming industry and some of the things going on with it. While I was doing that, I came across a video from everyone's favorite content creator, I'm sure, Dreamcastguy, who made a video called Is Gaming Screwed? $1,000 consoles and $100 games will kill gaming. And I wanted to just make a response video to this because I feel like there's a lot of dumb takes in this video, and I think overall that this video has a lot of fear-mongering, just saying things that are, in my opinion, just kinda bullshit. Now, there is quite a lot I want to say in today's video, and it might be a bit of a longer video, so I'm not going to keep you guys here too long for the intro. Let's just go ahead and get into the video. But let's talk about the title of the video before we get into it, because there's a bit I want to say about this. $1,000 consoles. I don't think that they are going to release base consoles like just a base PS5, well, it would be the PS6, or the next Xbox for $1,000 unless there's like a PC built into them or something like that. Like this idea of $1,000 consoles, I don't think is reality unless you're talking about, let's say, the next Xbox being a PC hybrid, or maybe the PS6 Pro, so a Pro console. I don't think base consoles are going to be $1,000. Like, I'm just being completely honest with you guys. I know the gaming industry is very greedy right now. I know they are trying a lot of scummy shit, but I do not think they would go to $1,000 base consoles. And the reason why I think that is because a lot of console gamers are just casuals. They're just normal, everyday people. They're not that into gaming, a lot of them aren't. And if they see a $1,000 console, chances are a lot of those casual players just will not buy it. They will just stick with their last gen console, and that will be that. They won't really think twice about it, because hardcore gamers and casual gamers are very different when it comes to what they're willing to spend for gaming. Sure, Sony might make a little bit more money, or Microsoft might make a little bit more money off of the hardcore gaming community off of each console sale, but they would lose out so much on that casual user base that just buys a console for 1 or 2 games a year. Next up, $100 games. This could possibly happen. I don't put this out of the question. I don't think it would happen this year. I don't think it would happen within the next 5 years, but I can definitely see within the next decade games going up to $100. But the truth is, I don't think something like this would kill gaming, because if you look at the most popular edition of Call of Duty, what is it? It's the Vault Edition, which is already over $100. So that tells you that people are already okay with spending $100 for a video game. Sure, I get it's a bit different that the entry point might go up to $100, but people clearly don't have a problem with spending $100 for a video game. Which is a very grim thought when you think about it. But now that I've got all my thoughts about the title of this video out of the way, we can actually go ahead and play Dreamcastguy's fantastic video.
Hey there gamers, Dreamcastguy here. Today we're talking about video game prices, both the price of individual games, because there's talks about making each game cost $100, maybe even starting this year.
Yeah, games being $100 this year I think is just absolute bullshit, and the reason why I say that is because we already saw a price increase last year to $80 with Nintendo's games. And they haven't even fully committed to that yet, only doing it for one game I think, which was Mario Kart World. There might be another game, but I can't remember, but I still see Nintendo releasing games like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book for $60 and $70 for the physical copy. And with all the backlash that we saw to Nintendo going up to $80 for simply one game, which honestly was still deserved, I think a lot of other gaming publishers and companies saw that reaction and are a little too scared to price one of their games at $100 because, I mean, if people gave Nintendo a shit ton of backlash for $80, imagine the backlash they would get for pricing a game at $100. Now, would people still buy games if they were $100? Absolutely. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the most popular edition of games like Call of Duty is usually like the most expensive edition. However, I think a lot of companies are a little too scared of getting the Nintendo treatment when it comes to backlash to price a game at $100 right after Nintendo got a shit ton of backlash for the $80 price increase.
But also the cost of consoles, because right now we're hearing the first rumblings about the next generation Xbox, Project Helix. Of course, we just got the Nintendo Switch 2 and the PlayStation 6. I mean, Sony's already basically talking about it. And these new consoles, this new software, these new controllers, we know it's all going to be ridiculously expensive. There is no way in the world that the next generation is going to cost anything less than $1,000.
Yeah, I just don't agree with this, man. I don't think the base versions of next-gen consoles are going to be $1,000. The only way I can see that happening is with the Xbox if they decide to go through with the whole PC console hybrid. I don't even know what the fuck Xbox is planning to do at the moment. But yeah, that's the only way I see consoles being $1,000 for their base variants.
And I want to sort of discuss this because I'm kind of afraid that these prices across the board are going to kill gaming. This is not just about, oh man, my favorite studio might close, oh, my favorite console manufacturer may have a bad quarter. I am afraid about the entirety of gaming that it's going downhill.
Well, I think if we really break it down, you could argue that gaming has been going downhill for quite a while now, and I think it's just a consequence of gaming going mainstream and all of these publishers and developers trying to appeal to wider audiences. And obviously mix that with the fact that there's been so many greedy practices, microtransactions, and other shit going on within the industry. But gaming will never truly die. Worst comes to worst, it will go back to being niche again.
For the last couple generations, specifically that era of the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4, there was an explosive growth of new gamers. There was a ton of data that essentially a bunch of people that had always known about gaming, or maybe they'd grown up seeing stuff or played stuff casually here and there, that was the generation where a lot of people for the first time said, I want to get in on that.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, I feel like the Xbox 360 and the PS3 are where a lot of people jumped in. And you putting this article up on the screen, this 31% of PlayStation 4 owners did not own a PS3, I don't feel like that really proves anything, because this doesn't account for all the people that were on the Xbox 360 and then jumped over to the PlayStation 4, because of how shitty the Xbox One's launch was with the spy camera, the always online, and the fact that you couldn't share games.
They called this the fresh adoption rate, and it created this whole span of people that essentially wanted to actually go, okay, I want to try Nintendo Switch exclusives. I want to be able to play all those Marios I missed, or people buying PlayStations and seeing, especially with the PlayStation 4, the crazy back catalog, the Uncharted Trilogy Collection, the Killzone games, stuff like that. There was so much to play.
I mean, I will admit, I think the PlayStation 4 generation was pretty awesome. I was a PlayStation 4 owner, and I loved that console.
But it's interesting that last generation, as explosive as it was, led to this gen, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, the Xbox Series X, that seems to have a much smaller base overall, and I think it's going to shrink.
I don't really know about that, man. The only console that's doing poorly at the moment is the Xbox, and a lot of that is because of their marketing practices. The PS5 at the moment is approaching 100 million consoles sold, and the Switch 2 is already over 17 million, and the console hasn't even been out for a full year now. Now, is the PS5 doing as good as the PS4? Not quite. Is the Switch 2 doing as good as the Switch 1 was? Not quite. But they're still performing very well. It's only Xbox that is struggling.
We have seen a record number of studio closures, of layoffs, of just bad business.
And a lot of that is just because they aren't putting out games as good as games in the past. And another reason there are so many layoffs is because around when COVID hit, a lot of companies hired way too many people thinking that this explosion of popularity in gaming would last forever when it in fact did not. Another reason why this could be happening, all the layoffs, is because for a lot of games, they are spending way too much to develop the games nowadays, therefore they're not really making their money back, and they have to do layoffs.
And I do feel like there used to be this very important casual market. These people that would buy games just because they saw a trailer for it. It looked good. Those games that normies can appeal to. At this point, nobody is buying games.
A lot of the reason that people aren't buying games as much now as they used to is because there are so many free-to-play games that they could just play instead, and they buy a skin now and then, so they're still supporting the overall gaming industry. Think about it, if you're a casual gamer and you see a game down at the store for $70, but you also see a free game that looks fun on the store that you could buy a couple skins for over the span of a year, which one do you think the casual gamer is going to pick? But even in today's gaming landscape where people opt for free-to-play games, people still buy games. Battlefield 6 sold over 20 million copies. Tons of people went out and bought Hollow Knight Silksong. Expedition 33 sold really well. Donkey Kong Bonanza sold very well. Mario Kart World, unfortunately with its price tag, sold very well. So people are still willing to buy video games. However, a lot of people will just stick with the free-to-play games because that might be a more affordable option for them, or maybe they're more casual and they just don't care to spend all that much money on video games.
Hardcore gamers are stuck playing retro stuff, they're stuck playing last generation, and I'm a bit afraid that PlayStation 6 is going to be drastically out of touch for everybody, even the people that do want to get it started. But
we don't really know anything about the PlayStation 6 yet, so I'm not going to sit here and speak on it. We don't know how much it's going to cost. I doubt it'll be $1,000, but this idea that hardcore gamers are only playing retro stuff is just not true, because like I mentioned earlier, new games still sell well. There are still breakout successes. Hardcore gamers are still willing to pay for new shit. Now, there still are people who are nostalgic for the older days of gaming, and those people will play primarily older games, but that is not the majority of the gaming community.
so Zubitech, we're going to go through a bunch of different stuff, but Zubitech is very much a PlayStation fanboy account. It's an account that very much cheerleads a lot of the good stuff that PlayStation does, talks about all their successes. It's interesting that this morning they announced a drastic price increase. The PlayStation 5 went up $150. The PlayStation 5 Pro now costs $900. Now, Zubitech has been very much a cheerleader for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I mean, I have a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I'm not going to lie, I absolutely love my PlayStation 5 Pro, but
yeah, the PS5 Pro that you sold your girlfriend your old PS5 for an insane price to afford.
a lot of people in the replies are like, this is wild. It's just not worth it. The situation for the whole world that is affecting gaming, everything is going up. Steam is not selling Steam Decks. They've delayed their console. Xbox raised prices. PlayStation raised prices. RAM, these DRAM issues, transportation issues, CPU issues. It's getting worse and no signs of slowing down.
I do agree with this. I do think the pricing of consoles is getting a little bit out of hand, but I do not think consoles are going to go up to $1,000 for entry-level variants of them.
And this is a good point. Now, I do want to state that I don't think this is just a console pricing issue. I do see people posting a lot of stuff like this. Remember when consoles were getting cheaper? I do think that my fear is that everything getting more expensive around gaming is also kind of eating up our time. With rent going up, with prices going up, food going up, it's getting to a point where people are like, okay, if I'm working a 12-hour shift and I go home and I already own a console that I paid $1,000 for, how much time am I even going to have a chance to play it? Am I going to want to buy a big budget, crazy expensive game that cost the studio $300 million to make? Do I even want that, or do I just want to zone out and scroll TikTok?
Well, I would definitely choose gaming over scrolling on TikTok, and I remember when I used to work full-time at my job, and I would come home and I would play my PlayStation for like an hour or two before bed. And I think a lot of people would still choose that over, scrolling TikTok, because let's be honest, TikTok is ass.
I almost think the prices are almost becoming this cycle where I'm almost afraid that just in general, These consoles have had a smaller and smaller fan base of people that even have the time or the money to play this stuff, and it's only getting worse as those prices skyrocket.
Once again, this idea that the fan bases for these consoles are shrinking is just not reality, man. Like, okay, maybe they're shrinking a tiny bit, but if you look at the lifetime sales for PlayStation 5s and Switch 2s, they aren't trailing exponentially behind the last generations. Now, I wish these consoles would do worse after all these price increases to send a message to these companies that we don't like the prices of the current consoles, but, I mean, we just have to face facts. It's not reality.
Right now, the PlayStation 6 is looking to be Sony's most challenging launch, and that's saying something because the PlayStation 3 had a very, very bad launch. I mean, look at this. Is gaming getting too expensive? Maybe in a few years, the Switch 2's price will probably go up. PlayStation 6, $1,000.
Once again, the $1,000 PS6 that I do not see happening. I think, if you ask me, the PS5 will be at most $750. Now, is that expensive for a console? Absolutely. But $1,000? I don't think so.
Next, Xbox, $1,200. Mid-range PC, $3,000.
If you're okay with sticking with DDR4, which is not really that bad if you ask me, I don't think you're going to have to spend near $3,000 for a good PC. You just have to make sure you're picking your parts wisely and waiting for good deals. $3,000 is a lot, and you'll definitely get a very high-end PC if you spend that much on one. Plus, this whole RAM shit is definitely just temporary, as a lot of AI companies are actually losing money at the moment.
And I'm almost terrified of this question. Too expensive. There used to be these different brackets of gaming. There used to be more casual stuff. I play stuff a couple years out of date. I don't really care. Or, I actually was talking to a fan a couple weeks ago. We randomly talked to me in an arcade, and he was talking to me about back when the Nintendo Switch Lite came out. This came out in 2019, and I made a video essentially not only saying I like the Switch Lite, I said, this is the future of gaming. This is a cheaper, easier device, It's made with less parts. It's honestly, it's on your screen. Yeah, it's not the best console ever. The screen's not the best, but this thing is way, 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 way cheaper. And I almost think that this kind of stuff is important. And entry points. There used to be entry points, gateway drugs. Hey, here's a way to play stuff, right? All right, do you like the PlayStation 4? Well, you can get the PlayStation 4 that has the tiniest hard drive, right? Or the one that doesn't come with a controller and you get about like a crappy wired controller. Think about the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 had the arcade edition, which basically did not have any storage at all, but it came with Xbox Live. I think it came with a free game of your choice. So it's basically this entry point was, okay, later on, now you can buy the expensive stuff.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with this, to be honest.
I mean, straight up, it's just weird to think about the fact that there is not like a starting point. You don't buy a PlayStation 4 now and eventually get a PlayStation 5. You would buy a PlayStation 5 and then be ready for it. But now, with everything getting more and more expensive, those people that probably were saving up, that were excited, how many people were trying to ask for Christmas or their birthday or something to get a PlayStation 5 and a new game, and then suddenly the price jumps by straight up 30%. It's insane to consider this.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, the price increases are bullshit, but you say that nobody now would buy a PS4 and build up a library and then get a PS5, but what's stopping them? You can get a PS4 for pretty cheap nowadays, and you have a pretty good selection of games. And if you're somebody who only plays, let's say, Call of Duty every single year, Call of Duty is still releasing for the PlayStation 4.
Now, I saw this. I'm kind of afraid about this tweet. It kind of freaks me out if I'm being honest. As video game hardware prices continue to jump rapidly, this market will lose presence in middle-income households, while lower-income households may be removed entirely. Video game players can be expected to shift to low barrier of entry, more accessible gaming options as they get priced out. If dedicated gaming devices are available only to the rich, it will be, in my opinion, a very, very bad thing for gaming overall. Right now, there is a lot of very big, very cool games that are deep in development. Let's throw out something crazy like Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, we all know that GTA 6 is going to be a huge success. Nobody thinks that GTA 6 is going to flop. It's going to be a huge, huge deal. But think about if this sort of circumstance happened. Let's say GTA 6 came out in 2027 instead, and it was a PlayStation 6 exclusive, just for this hypothetical, right? If they did that, even as excited as people would, as big as that budget is, as perfect as the game may actually be, think about how tiny and inaccessible it would be. Only the people that are able to afford a $1,200 console.
So now we're at a $1,200 console. At the beginning of the video, the title of your video, it said a $1,000 console, but let's just jack up the price to $1,200 based off of what exactly? Like, are you just pulling the shit out of your ass?
probably $150 controllers, a $500 TV bare minimum, and that's for a crappy TV at this point. And then, of course, the $100 game. That is just a higher and higher and higher barrier of entry. And I'm almost afraid about stuff like, I don't know, I love two series more than anything else, Final Fantasy and Resident Evil. And I think Resident Evil has done a smart thing where Resident Evil has found a way to kind of just keep the games coming out. They've got multiple teams making these tinier, more bite-sized games, right? I mean, Resident Evil's big and fun, but you beat most of them in about 15 hours. Compared to something like Final Fantasy, we get one Final Fantasy every 7 years. It's a 150-hour crazy masterpiece. But if it doesn't sell crazy amounts, these budgets are so crazy. There are some leaked numbers that the average game now to be successful needs to sell about 5.5 to 6 million units to break even.
This is pretty easily solved if developers just realize that photorealistic graphics aren't really that big of a deal and people are honestly okay with PS4 level graphics. I know I'm simplifying it a lot and there's a bit more that goes into it than that, but that is a huge thing in the gaming industry right now. We are spending way too much money on graphics when it comes to game development.
That is just astronomical numbers. Even some of the top games in the world, right? Think of some of the top games in the world. Battlefield 6, best-selling game in 2025. All the studios that worked on it are hit with layoffs.
The layoffs for Battlefield 6, while they suck, they make sense. The game came out, people were hyped, tons of people were playing the game, and they just did not keep up the content. When it comes to live service games today, every single game is competing to keep players, and Battlefield just did not release enough content to keep people around.
Fortnite generated $6 billion in revenue in 2025. Over 1,000 people were laid off. Even at peak success, AAA gaming is somehow collapsing. And I'm just thinking about the fact that we are hitting this point where I do think that beyond just the prices, I'm afraid about the fact that what if nobody can even buy the games? Not even the discussion that our game's getting worse, our game's getting filled with too much DLC and crap. Are we even able to afford the games? That is a scary question I never thought we'd actually have to discuss.
If games did hypothetically get to a point where people could not afford them, the entire market, the entire gaming industry would just shift back to free-to-play games and make all of their money off of microtransactions. Now, obviously, in that scenario where everything becomes overpriced to the point where nobody can afford it, you still have to buy the console up front, but the thing is, I don't think that the PS6 is going to be $1,000. And I've stated this multiple times in today's video, but I truly cannot stress it enough. I do not think they are going to launch the PS6 for $1,000. Now, for the next little section of Dreamcastguy's video, he simply talks about how the economy is shit, and I 100% agree with him, so I'm not actually going to go over that in today's video. So let's skip over to when he talks about a low-cost entry-level console for gaming.
I am a bit nervous that there needs to be some sort of low-cost system. And I don't care who makes it. I'm really hoping the Steam Machine finds some way to be as cheap as possible. I bought my Steam Deck for $300, and I love my Steam Deck a lot, but I almost just think that devices like this, a cheap ability to play games, not even on the go, even if this was a dockable system, I think that we need to find a way that somebody can buy games, play current games, in some ability that's less than $600.
Both the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch 2 have the ability to play modern day games, and both are buyable for less than $600. Anyway, for the rest of today's video, he just talks about what gaming was like when he was a kid, and I don't really have too much to add on to that, so here is where I'm going to end today's video. If you guys did enjoy today's video, a like would be greatly appreciated. If you didn't like today's video, you can leave a dislike and a mean comment. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. I'm out.